Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Super Lunch Post Podcast, episode number 89. I am Brendan, and today we're going to talk about UFC 269. Oliveira versus Poirier. We had Amanda Nunes taking on the challenger, Juliana Pena. Some other decent fights on the card. I would say prospects, but some fighters making some step-ups in competition and just blowing it out of the water. Some questionable decisions as far as judging goes, some questionable referee decisions / paying attention. Well, we'll get to those things. Before we get started, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Interaction means a lot to me. Comment down below. Let me know. Did you think that there was that glove grab was bad? And we'll get into that. Did you think that Amanda Nunes came in looking as good as she has? Do you think she overlooked her opponent? What do you think about all these things? By the way, spoilers for this entire card. I've never said that before, but I figure people searching for this afterwards hopefully would figure that out. Anyway, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends about the stuff. If you want to talk about MMA, please comment down below. I'll write back. I promise. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's talk about the main event. Dustin Poirier taking on Charles Oliveira. So Charles Oliveira got the belt, the vacant belt, from Michael Chandler after getting 10-8'd in the first round and the fight being, I would say, milliseconds away from being stopped. It's a good thing it didn't, because Charles Oliveira in the second round comes back, cracks Chandler, and gets the finish himself, becoming the undisputed UFC lightweight champion. Now, this isn't the lineal title because he never had to beat Khabib, and there's a big gap between who fought who. Well, Poirier has beaten everybody in the division, not named Khabib at this point. And then he had those two fights with McGregor to make a ton of money. He had the opportunity to fight for the title, but chose to have that second fight with McGregor, made a ton of money. Good for him. I'm glad he did those things. Now we can move on, and he can, become the champion. First round. Let's talk about what happened here. First round, I would say Poirier was looking excellent. Okay, it was so active. Like the first round was, I would say, insane, but that word's overused. I would say the pace was so high that it didn't look like that was sustainable. It didn't look believable. Charles has the same issue that he's had always. He's hittable. Okay, it's easy to hit him because he doesn't take his head off the center line. He always cracks. He can move forward. He's got great grappling, decent cardio, all those things. He's got all of the qualities that you want except bad head movement, and his striking isn't the best. Right? That includes foot position, footwork, and head movement and head position. So he's obviously not the best at striking because he does take a lot of damage. That being said, he also put out a lot of damage, as we can see in this first round. 54-48 in favor of Poirier. And Poirier did drop him twice. Okay? Knocked him down twice. I would say Poirier easily won the first round. Yes, there was some great leg kicks. So Charles it felt like he had more output, and he did. He had more varied attacks, and he landed more. But they weren't significant strikes. Okay, so he was landing more, but they weren't the more significant strikes. They weren't the big strikes. He did land a lot to the body, which you could say, hey, he was going to the body, putting those shots in the bank, so Poirier would tire out later, because Poirier doesn't have the best cardio, and he does get tired later on, especially if you force him to fight high output early. I mean, we can argue all those things later on, or I'm not going to get into those things because it doesn't matter. So Dustin put him on his ass twice. More output from Charles, but the big shots were just coming from Dustin. So in the second round, it seemed like more of the same. Charles with some decent output, and then Dustin Poirier lands some good shots. Then they end up in an interaction on the ground where Poirier's on top inside of Charles' guard. Charles starts losing control because Poirier doesn't want to sit in his guard anymore, doesn't want to play jiu-jitsu with him. So he backs out. But his arm gets stuck, and it was spoken in the broadcast many times. It was showed on the replay. He held inside his glove. Okay, so let's imagine this is, where the glove gets taped to the wrist. Charles Oliveira's fingers were like this. Right? That is not allowed. You're not allowed to grab inside of your opponent's glove. You can grab inside your own glove to get a grip for whatever reason. You can also grab your own shorts. These are rules that have been in place for a very long time, but you've never been allowed to grab inside of an opponent's glove. For good reason. You can you could hurt yourself or your opponent by doing those things. Also, it's an unfair advantage because you are now able to reach inside your opponent's clothing and start to mess with things that should not be messed with, right? So he holds on to his glove. Poirier's trying to pull away, and the only thing stopping him from pulling away was that glove grab. And then Poirier starts to lose his balance, tries to roll out of it, but because Charles has such a grip on the inside of the glove, he was able to hold on, transition on top, and then sit in Poirier's guard for the rest of the round. Essentially 4.5 minutes of the second round. And he tired Poirier out quite a bit. And in the third round, there's a bullshit interaction. Then Charles manages to get the back, skillfully, I might add, and then works his way to a standing rear naked choke and defending his belt. All right, so if you look on Twitter, I was pretty vocal about it. If you look on Twitter, there was people saying, oh, all these butthurt fans, these butthurt Dustin fans complaining about that glove grab. They started a neutral position in the third. Well, I have something for you, okay? That second round could have existed the way it did if Charles got into that position through legal means. And we don't know. That might have happened. Who knows? 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute later. That could have played out exactly how it played out without Charles breaking the rules. Cheating, right? He cheated. That's what he did. By the way, Herb Dean was the ref. I'm not defending the guy anymore. I'm going to hop on the train that Twitter has been on, I guess, this entire year. It's also funny that guy won Referee of the Year. He just misses so much stuff. I feel like he's not paying attention as much as he should be. I understand that it is hard to call certain fouls or hard to see certain fouls when they occur, especially when there's glove grabs like inside, when everything's bundled up and covered up and you're grabbing your opponent's glove inside, like where your two bodies are stuck together chest to chest and your hands are in there and you're hand fighting, or against the cage and your hand goes into the fence behind your opponent's back. These things are hard to see in real time from all positions because you might be in a certain position to make sure that what is going on is happening legally and there's no illegal strikes, and you're looking for as much information as possible, and that view and position you currently have isn't the best position to catch the foul that's occurring. None of that applies to this shit. None of it does. It was blatant. It was out in the open. There was nothing. The only thing inside of Charles' guard at the end of this was Poirier's arm, his hand. And Charles was clearly grabbing the inside of the glove. That position should have been taken away. It should have been stood up, and then they can start from a neutral position. And who knows, maybe from that neutral position, he immediately takes the back and gets a standing rear naked choke like he did in the third round. Okay? So for all of those saying, oh, hey, they started a neutral position in the third, Charles got to a position through illegal means and was able to tire out his opponent for essentially 4.5 minutes. 4.5 minutes of grappling that could not have occurred if he did not break the rules at the time that he did it. Okay? So for all of those, like I said, for you guys trying to defend Charles Oliveira and say, oh, you guys are all just butthurt Dustin fans. First of all, I'm not a huge fan. I like Dustin Poirier as a person. I enjoy him as a fighter. He's not my favorite fighter in the division, nor was I rooting for him per se in this fight. I just wanted to see a fun fight. And the first round was, the second round was not. And this was a big reason. This taints the win for me. Okay, and for those of you guys saying like, oh, Dustin definitely would have won that if that didn't, that's also not true. You don't know that. I think I went over this last week about this. And there's another fight on this card which exemplifies this. This prediction style of refereeing, right? This analytical and statistic-driven refereeing that doesn't take into account real-life action. Okay? Essentially saying what is most likely to happen is a finish here, therefore I'm going to stop it. instead of letting the finish occur. In this scenario, he just wasn't paying, like, fucking Herb Dean wasn't paying attention. Okay? So, for you guys saying, on the Dustin side, saying, oh, he would have won that. You don't know that. You don't know that you can't predict that he's going to get up and knock Charles out, or they're going to spend 5 rounds in a war and he's going to win a majority of the rounds. You don't know that. I would have liked to see him have an opportunity to do that, and I would like to see Charles defend those things and get this win legitimately, which he didn't. And the thing is, people are saying, oh, well, Dustin didn't complain about it. That's because he's not bitching. He's not that kind of fighter. He's not the person to make excuses. He never has in his entire career. The dude is as honest and hardworking as it comes. He's not there to make excuses. It's not okay to do this. I mean, McGregor did this too. It's not okay. It's never okay to cheat. This is why there needs to be live, real-time punishment for rule infraction. You grab the inside of his gloves, change the position immediately, and you got to pay attention. That's Herb Dean. This is his fault. Anyway, I'm excited to see the next fight, which will be Justin Gaethje versus Charles Oliveira. It's going to be exciting. That's a hard one for Charles Oliveira because Gaethje hits hard. And yes, he does get tired, but you're going to have to walk through the fire to beat him. I mean, Chandler getting one win could put himself back in title contention. I see that as a possibility. You know, Dustin Poirier versus Chandler would be a fun fight. There's a lot of fun fights to make it lightweight. I don't think that people saying that this is the Charles Olive era, right? The Charles era of lightweight. Let's pump our brakes, okay? This is his first defense, and it's stained by a foul and a illegitimate gain of position, right? Again, I'm not a butthurt Dustin fan. If you know me and if you've listened to my podcast before and you've seen me talk about this stuff, I mention fouls all the damn time. Even for fighters I like, I don't care. I don't care if I like you. I don't care if I thought you should have won. I don't care if I thought you were winning. It doesn't fucking matter. Committing fouls changes this sport drastically, as we saw. He got that position illegally, gets to sit on top and tire the other guy out. On the feet, he was getting lit up. And yeah, he was doing damage on his own. You're going to the person watching this who's on the Charles Oliveira side saying, oh, you know, that's too bad for him. He should have it's fighting. That's some of the other responses like, oh, it's a fight. Okay, yes, by technical definition, this is a fight because that's what this sport is. But it's also a sport, meaning there are rules to this shit, and that's one of the rules. Here's a great example I will move on from this because I don't dislike Charles Oliveira. What I did, I've said this before as well, I didn't think that he deserved the hype that he had based off the wins and the record that he had at the time that those, I wouldn't say accusations, those claims were being made. Has he made good on the hype? Absolutely. Has he shown that he does deserve to be at the top and he does deserve the belt? Absolutely. Excellent fighter. One of the best, if not the best in the division right now. And I'm excited that he wants to take on challengers and not do what Khabib did. He's had to fight the top contenders a little bit. Right, he did get a little bit of the Khabib treatment where he got to skip a lot of those contenders that end up fighting each other a lot, and somehow he gets to jump the queue because he was on a fight streak and then fights one fighter in the top 5 and gets to go. In top 10, essentially, and gets to go. So, last thing I'll say is I'll make a little analogy for you. If Charles Oliveira, hell, pick a fighter, I don't care. If Dustin were to kick Oliveira in the nuts, Oliveira huddles over in pain. He cripples over because his nuts were hit, and the ref didn't see it. And then he proceeds to punch him so much that he gets a TKO, even though the pain is all coming from that nut shot. What would have been said? Or here's a better example. Let's say he does that nut shot and then unloads on him, puts a ton of damage on him in the second round. Third round starts. Clearly, Oliveira's compromised, takes one good shot to the chin and goes down. Are you going to be happy? Are you going to be happy about that? We've seen it before with Faber versus, I think, Rivera. Was it Francisco? I remember. Well, not Francisco Rivera. Anyway, Faber poked him in the eye. The ref didn't see it, and he got the TKO finish. We've seen this before. It's not fair. Nobody likes it. Okay, as the MMA community, we should be more understanding of both sides here. But we need to realize that a foul was committed, and it was not punished. It clearly had an effect on the fight, and it needs to be taken into account going forward. That's all. Okay? I'm not saying Charles would not have won. I'm not saying Poirier would have won. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. It just stains such a good night. And that good fight, too. That first round was freaking awesome. So good. High output. Great shots. Excellent technique. You could tell there was a game plan from both sides. So good. Marred by a foul and some shitty grappling in the second round to stall out. Not cool. Let's see what happens going forward. I do hope they get to run this fight back, whether it be for the title or not, and maybe we'll have it run for 5 full rounds or get a real finish instead of one through illegal means. Okay, let's talk about the biggest surprise of the night. I would say of the year, maybe of the decade. Juliana Pena defeating Amanda Nunes. This actually happened. This did. Juliana Pena defeating Amanda Nunes via rear naked choke. Sort of. Didn't have any hooks in, just got the choke in the second round. Holy shit, guys. Now, I did not predict this at all. Okay, I've just been accustomed to the Nunes. It's like if someone beat Valentina Shevchenko next week or, in a couple months, I won't see that coming either. I just won't because I don't see a challenger that has anything for her right now. I will be just as surprised when someone beats her. I will. By the way, Shevchenko has a win over Pena, and I think she beats her again. So she's just a really bad matchup for Pena. And I guess Pena is a bad matchup for Nunes. It's funny how MMA math works. So in this fight, we saw Nunes's weakness is still the same as it was 5 years ago, before she got the title even. We know what that weakness is. We just haven't seen it lately, and there was no reason for her to work on it. She's been so dominant on the feet, in the grappling. It's just been nothing but excellence from Nunes. There's been nobody who could put forth any challenge and make her work. But what is the weakness that we all know Nunes has? Cardio. Always been a weakness. And yes, if you go back like 3 or 4 fights ago when they're talking about her cardio, and it's like, oh, clearly she doesn't have an issue with cardio. She does. Her output slows down. We saw it in both Shevchenko fights. We saw it in the fight versus freaking Kat Zingano. If she doesn't get you out of it, we saw it in the Jermaine Durandamy fight too. Now, it just so happens that Durandamy is a horrible grappler and can't get off her back and just sits there, so it made it easy on Nunes. But Nunes was trying to bang with her, and Durandamy was outlasting her on the feet and had better cardio, but couldn't do anything when it went to the ground. So Pena just weathered the storm. Weathered the storm in the first round. I mean, we say storm, but you want to look at these striking, like 10-5. Yeah, there were some big shots, and she got on top and was working for a finish, and Nunes looked pretty dominant, but I don't think she landed a ton of damage. And then Pena comes out in the second round, gets in her face, and just starts throwing. They start throwing back and forth. They do a little bit of grappling. And you can tell, Pena cracked her, I think it was 2 or 3 times. And Nunes was like, all right, let's do this. And started winging him. Throwing big looping punches like she used to. She has not advanced that much since she was fighting 5 years ago. It just so happens, I've also said this. How many times do I need to tell everybody? This division is not good. The level of striking is nowhere near as good as it is at strawweight. The competition is nowhere near as good as it is at strawweight. It's not. Look at Pena's striking. Nothing crisp about it. Just gritty, in-your-face type of stuff. This is someone who could have lost to Ronda Rousey. You know, styles make fights. I think Nunes beats Rousey 100 times out of 100. But I could see Rousey beating Pena. She's been retired for like 5 years, man. 135 has not moved that far forward into the future of fighting. It just hasn't. The level has not advanced like you think it should. It just hasn't. Strawweight has. Strawweight keeps moving forward. There's a big pool of fighters. So it's incredible to see. You know, there's no speculation here for what happens next. Pena is obviously going to have to defend the belt again against Nunes, and I might even favor Nunes in the rematch because she knows what she needs to work on specifically for Pena. This is one of the few times where she gets to rematch somebody as champion, and she knows exactly what that other person is doing. So if Pena comes in with a different technique this time, you know, maybe she could win again. I might even favor Nunes in the rematch. I think, you know, this was a really good fight. Nunes is not unstoppable. I never thought she was. You can go back into the early days of her being a champ, and I mentioned that. Like, she has weaknesses. It's just nobody can take advantage of them. And I didn't think Pena was the person to do it. I really didn't. I mean, Valentina was. She definitely was, and she won that fight. Over 5 rounds, she won at least 3 of those rounds. It's just one of those things, man. You know, anything can happen on any given night. I think I gave it like a 95 times out of 100 goes to Nunes. Maybe it's closer to 70-30. Maybe it's 60-40. We'll see. Let's see how it looks next. And, you know, Nunes says she just shut down out there. So anybody's liable to have a bad night, especially as a champ, especially as someone who's been so dominant, maybe not taking her opponents that seriously, not thinking that, and especially the way she was talking about Pena, saying like, oh, you know, she's got all these weaknesses and I'm going to be able to exploit them. I'm better everywhere. If you extrapolate that to the way she probably was preparing for this fight, I bet you she wasn't working as hard as she could have been. Not that again, it's worked for her so far, so who am I to criticize? She's one of the best female fighters of all time. So who am I to criticize? That being said, it didn't work this time, so she needs to change something up again. Fully expect her to come back and present more of a challenge the second fight, for sure. All right, let's talk about another fight. So this one kind of blew my mind. I watched it live, and I've gone back and watched it again today. Oh, yeah, I actually stayed up for this card. It's the last pay-per-view of the year. Figure I might as well. Derek Clearly, 3 rounds to Geoff Neal. Nope. Was not watching the fight. Just wasn't. The second round was... The first round was clearly Ponzinibbio's. Second round, I thought, was clearly Ponzinibbio's. And the live striking numbers were way off as far as significant strikes go. Total strikes in favor of Ponzinibbio. Significant strikes in favor of Ponzinibbio. And let's look at the third round here. Geoff Neal outstruck Ponzinibbio in the third round, 46-39. Third round, definitely Neal's, and you could watch that round. Did more damage, obviously. So that means in the first 2 rounds, he way outpaced him. 26-20 and 26-19. Essentially the same. I thought he landed the more significant strikes too. Mixed it up enough, but based off of the striking numbers and where they went, I think we can all figure out what was going on here. 85% of Geoff Neal's shots were to the head. It's what it was. You know, he was punching him in the face, and then every time there's a leg kick or a body shot, it's not considered as much damage. I mean, I gave the first 2 rounds to Ponzinibbio. They were close, right? I'm not upset at the decision. I just think it's wrong. I thought they were clearly Ponzinibbio's rounds, but I mean, I could be wrong. Tell me what you think. I thought Ponzinibbio had that one. That was That was a weird decision for me. I thought that was some bad judging. It's not the only one, but definitely that 30-27, you're going to tell me that Geoff Neal won both of those first 2 rounds? Get the fuck out of here. No, he did not. Absolutely not. All right, I've shit on this guy a lot. It's because I didn't like his attitude. I didn't like the fake shit with TJ Dillashaw. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and kick the guy while he keeps getting down. It just... And I've also, it's not just him, it was the UFC's treatment and preferential treatment of him that really got to me, okay? Offering him title shots that I don't feel like he deserved, giving him the position when dropping down in weight and fighting a challenger that I don't think he deserved, keeping him in the rankings that he should not have been, giving him opportunities that he did not earn. It's really weird to see them back someone this hard over and over again as they just keep failing. He's not, and the weird thing is he's not a draw either. Maybe he is. I don't know. Maybe there's numbers out there that can prove me wrong, but I don't think he's a draw, and nothing from what I've seen shows me that he's a draw. You know, I think his rivalry with TJ was pretty cool, and it was, you know, blown out of proportion, I believe. And I mean, TJ smoked him twice. Then he lost again, gets a win, like a Hail Mary, a really weird win, throwing a bullshit shot, loses, and gets knocked out by Kai Kara-France. So Cody looked huge and landed like really good shots at a distance, but he was playing the counter game. He was sitting on the edge, the warning track, right? Sitting on the edge, waiting for his shot and trying to play the counter striker, and I thought he was doing okay. But the first time that France landed a big right hand, dropped him. Cody just does not have a chin anymore. I don't know if he ever had one, to be honest with you. If you go back and watch before he was in the UFC, he's gotten chinned before. It's just he got away with it, you know, against Thomas Almeida and I would say Dominic Cruz by being faster, really good head movement, staying out of the way, not getting in the brawls that he doesn't have to, hitting harder and knocking these guys out, like against Takeo Mizugaki, and, you know, doing the things that protected his chin, essentially. And he did a really good job of that. But we've seen over and over again now that he does not have a chin. And I saw Kenny Florian trying to defend him. I get that too, because MMA Twitter can be pretty vicious, and I don't think it's that bad to where, like, this guy can't fight anymore. It's just he, especially at these weight classes, getting knocked out like this repeatedly, it's not a good look. Okay, generally speaking, these guys aren't throwing knockout power. Now, that being said, putting him in fights because you know either he's getting knocked out or he's going to knock somebody out, maybe that's why the UFC is pushing him so hard, because he does bring attention to the sport, and he makes other guys look good lately. Sad, but true. Okay? And for all those like pushing him towards Aldo would have destroyed him. I just don't see how he beats Aldo. All right. And for all the shit that he talked against this guy, against Sean O'Malley, I mean, they've talked enough shit. Maybe this fight happens, you know? They've built it up enough, and he's coming off a loss, so he can't hide behind his rank anymore, and maybe he goes back up in weight. But Sugar Sean O'Malley, he looked great. Paiva's not a bad fighter. You know, he was ranked number 15 before this weekend, so O'Malley's probably jumping into the rankings this weekend, next week. He just landing big shots, great combos, and just knocking him fucking dead. Just knocking him dead. Where was France before this weekend? Kai Kara-France was ranked number 6. And he's calling for a title and saying he's going to sit out until he gets a title shot. I don't know if he's going to get it. I'd say he needs to win one more. But I'd say one more win, and that definitely puts him in. And then DC mentioning something about Manel Cap, saying he needs to fight him. I don't know if they're friends or if they train together or something, but that dude's ranked number 14. Why don't you chill, bro? He's coming off of 2 wins and finally get 2 losses and 2 wins, and getting into the rankings finally. Let's chill. Have him fight Tim Elliott or something. Hey, let's not jump the gun here. 2 wins. Let's not go crazy. All right. Good fight, though. I think Franz probably sit out 1 round. What's next for Cody? Like I said, have him go against Sean O'Malley. O'Malley looks great. I think he needs to fight somebody else in the top 15. Obviously, I don't think he fights unranked fighters anymore. Josh Emmett versus Dan Ige. So here's some more controversy over this weekend. Now here's if again, here's another guy, Saul D'Amato, 30-27 for Josh Emmett. I'll go over it round by round. I had Emmett winning this fight. He's fucking high. Just fucking high. By the way, I don't hate Emmett or anything, but he looks like Nosferatu. Just think of him. I listen, coming from a guy with big ears, like I've got big, goofy ears. I do. And if I were to shave my head, I'd probably look like Nosferatu as well. So I'm not just here to shit on the guy. I just think he looks funny. Again, this is coming from a guy who also looks goofy. There was about like a minute of feeling out process between these two, and then Emmett managed to land a giant shot and throws Ige to the ground. So Ige actually outlanded Emmett. They were both throwing so damn hard, but Ige, after that knockdown, through the rest of the round, it was able to outland him, and we can see that. I don't know how you don't give that to Emmett because of the knockdown. And I understand that, he was outlanded 23-14, but nothing from Ige damaged Emmett the way that knockdown punch did and the subsequent punches after that. So that's where I give it to Emmett. I understand people wanting Ige to have that round. I just don't see it. I mean, you could convince me if we go over it punch by punch, but I don't see it. Second round, Ige looked real clean and was able to stun Emmett. Throwing a lot of offense out there, too. He looked sharp, looking smooth, and was able to stun him. And then what's funny is in this round, Emmett outlanded Ige, but Ige won that second round. He just did. This is why this is backwards, because if Saul D'Amato was just saying, like, significant strikes-wise, then he clearly should have given Dan Ige the first round, not all 3 to Emmett because of significant strikes. It's so backwards. But then in the third round, the striking was so damn close. It was 20-22, in favor of Ige, but more offense was coming from Emmett. Emmett was back. Seemed like he was moving more and doing more of what he did in the first round, and took more of the good things that he did from the first and the second round and applied them in the third round and did a better job managing distance and landing. He did land some more big shots. I think he did more damage. So that's why I'm giving him it like he did more damage with his shots, based off appearance, and that's all you can do from watching it. We don't have a way to measure it. So he had it 29-28 in my book. I don't disagree with the decision. Again, not a robbery. If Ige got the decision here, I could see him getting the third round. If someone gave Ige the third round, I wouldn't be mad. But the 30-27 in favor of Josh Emmett, what the fuck was that guy watching? He was not watching the fight. He just wasn't. Okay. Dominic Cruz versus Pedro Munhoz. What a fucking fight. All right, you want to talk? Oh, my God. Cruz looked real slick in the first round. Ducking and diving, moving, that great footwork that he always does, that real awkward shit. But Munhoz landed a huge shot and was able to rock Cruz, put him, I guess, down. He definitely rocked him, put him against the fence, crumples over, and landing some subsequent shots. But Mark Goddard does not stop the fight. Unlike Keith Peterson when Henry Cejudo stopped the fight Keith Peterson stopped the fight when Henry Cejudo landed one big shot against Cruz with like 7 seconds left in the first round or second round or whatever it was. And he was never given a chance to recover or continue fighting because, one scary looking or big shot was thrown. This is why you don't do that. And this is where you also need to understand who's fighting. Because if this is a guy who has no chin, if this is a Chuck Liddell when he fell off, if this is a Andrei Arlovsky now, if this is an Alistair Overeem, although we saw what happened when he got hit hard, just gassed the other guy out. If it's these guys who we know just take damage and then the other guy is known for laying in big punches and it's unlikely that the guy is going to recover and you see that he's not defending himself for at least a couple shots, call it. That's not what happened here. Okay, he was trying to defend himself, and yes, a lesser referee could have stopped this fight, but why is it good that he didn't? Because we can see in the second and the third round, Dominick Cruz dude, even in the first round, he outworked Munhoz. He just got caught by the big shot. Okay, if Munhoz had done that in the second or third round, he wins the fight, but he didn't. He didn't catch Cruz with big shots. In fact, it was reversed. Cruz was catching Munhoz with the big shots. And at the end of the first round, Cruz was able to throw a giant flurry and catch Munhoz a bunch. Obviously, I'm not giving him that round. He got rocked. More damage was done by Munhoz in the first round. But Cruz started being able to time him. He started to loosen up, moving really well, able to land at will when he wanted to. Yeah, he took damage in the second, third round. It wasn't like a shutout or anything. It was 35-27 and then 40. But he got even better in the third round, 43-26. Avoided more of the punishment. It looked great. Kept his movement and his rhythm. Looked so fucking good. Dude, he threw 270 shots. 276 shots. That level of output is something else. He's one of the greatest of all time. He really is. I think he didn't beat TJ, but that's a different discussion. Because I was about to say, for people out there who think he's the best of all time, I would hedge in favor of TJ. But, because he had a super close fight with TJ and then loses to Cody Garbrandt. Also, I don't think Cody wins if they rematch. I really don't. Great fight, by the way. Great fight, and so happy for Cruz. Where does Cruz go from here now? What do we do? Because, it's a stacked division still. Before this weekend, he was ranked number 9, and Pedro Munhoz was ranked number 8. Cody Garbrandt still in the rankings for some reason. Having him fight Cody Garbrandt would be interesting, having that rematch. Having him fight Rob Font. I wouldn't put him against Corey Sandhagen, but we could do that. I wouldn't put him against Merab. Merab's coming off of too many wins. I think, and then, here's one that I think a lot of people wanted to see a long time ago, and now is possible. Jose Aldo versus Dominick Cruz. I think Dominick Cruz has done enough in his career to warrant a shot at Jose after that. It's a little iffy. It's more of storyline and history than it is current accomplishments, but I wouldn't be mad at it. I think it might answer some questions that we would have seen, like we're searching for answers to about 8 years ago when they were both at the peak. So that'd be fun. All right, Tai Tuivasa just knocking the shit out of Augusto Sakai, and we don't even need to look at. And then doing a shoey, coming out to I'm a Barbie girl, dude. So much fun. Love that guy. Super fun to watch. Sakai's a more technical fighter, and I think he had the more technical strategy, and he was playing counter striker, dancing around the warring track. But dude, Tuivasa just shoved him against the fence over and over again, landed big shots, and you're playing with fire at that point. He landed big. Dude, with more rounded game, I think Tuivasa's a real problem at heavyweight. He's got 4 wins in a row, okay? Stefan Struve, Harry Hunsucker, whatever, Greg Hardy, that was a big profile fight for him. And now Augusto Sakai. What does that put him in heavyweight here? That's got to throw him back into the rankings, right? Sergey Spivak can be dropped out, or Sergey Pavlovich, Walt Harris, Plagoy even up. Nah, no. Yeah, Augusto Sakai was ranked number 11. Yeah, let's throw him back in the rankings. Augusto can probably drop out. Yeah, man. I'd say honestly, one more big win like that against a ranked opponent, especially in the top 10. If he does manage to not weasel his way, but sneak in there and fight somebody in the top 10 and gets a knockout win against anybody, right? We're talking the likes of Lewis, Blades, Volkov, Rosenstruck, Abdurakhimov, Tybura. That's probably it. Tom Aspinall is not going to get you a title shot. But those guys I just mentioned, the bigger names in the division, guys who are well known to be challengers at the heavyweight, get a knockout win over one of them, I think you're in the short list for a title shot. He's also just a fun guy. So you can get a lot of promotional hype behind him because he's lighthearted, he's fun to watch, he's energetic, he doesn't take things too seriously, but he takes them seriously enough that to really work on his game in there. And he's made big improvements over the years and isn't the same fighter he was 5 years ago, which is incredible. You love to see that. Derek Lewis, who's fighting next weekend. Bruno Silva knocking out Jordan Wright. Wright just doesn't move his head. Didn't move his head at all. Silva punched his head because it was easy, because it wasn't moving, and knocks him out. Andre Muniz versus Eric Anders. Muniz managed to get on top, and Anders is not the best grappler and got an armbar. Sucks for Anders. He's always been so game. I mean that in a career-wise. He goes out there, he says, I'll fight anybody. He's one of those guys who really does just go out there and fight anybody. He works hard, and he has a lot of holes in his game, but he's a fun fighter to watch, hits hard, okay cardio. He's fought a lot of challenging fighters. And he's one of those, he's also a former football player, so this next reference I'm about to give you makes sense. He's one of those guys like OSP, right? Like Oven St. Preux, where he could win 3 in a row, or he could win 1, lose 1, or lose 3 in a row. He's that kind of fighter. It really depends on the matchup, the night, exactly what happened. There's so many variables. He doesn't have a lot of control over what's going on in the cage. It's like it's not a roll. It's not like a roll of the dice. It's more like fighting with him is, I can't think of a good analogy. I would say doing something on ice because it adds in more variables. But fights with him aren't as easy to calculate because he has the possibility of ending the fight with one punch anytime in the fight, or he could get submitted in the first 20 seconds. It's just one of those guys. And he's a fun fighter. Seems like a good dude. Fun to watch, so I'm excited. All right, Aaron Blanchfield versus Miranda Maverick. Maverick got dominated on the ground. You can look at the time here. This is the kind of fight it was. I mean, there's plenty of striking going on, but there was 12 minutes of control time for Blanchfield. So I don't know who was high on Miranda Maverick before this, but losing, which is funny because she beat Jillian Robertson, who won last night, but losing to Macy Barber and then Aaron Blanchfield, I don't know. She's a flyweight, so it's not the deepest division. 2 more wins and she could get a title shot. Blanchfield looks fine. I didn't see anything from her. I heard some rumblings after and some questions about having a challenger here. You're really grasping at straws at this point. All right, Ryan Hall taking on Derek Minner. Weird fight. Very weird fight. So you got to love how Hall shows up to this fight, and then when his name is being announced, it looks like he's showing up to work on Monday morning. Just like, yep, I'm here. It looks like he's about ready to sit down at his desk and look over spreadsheets for a couple hours before lunch. That's what it looks like. I don't know what to say here. I do know what to say. So, Minner was landing some really big shots in the first round. And then Hall rolled under and grabbed a leg. Didn't really have the position. And then Minner kind of unloaded on Hall in the first round. So I gave the first round to him. So these two 30-27s, I don't know about that. Now, the second and the third round, Minner just played too much ground game. He did. Ryan Hall was rolling around, doing more of the damage. And he spent a lot of time on his back in the second round, but he outlanded Minner. Minner wasn't doing anything. This is where I think DC's commentary fails, is he's so obsessed about position that he forgets about the judging criteria. Number one is damage. If you sit on top of me for 5 minutes and I land one really big elbow on you, I did more damage than you did. And I know it sounds stupid because that's an extreme example, but that's the number one judging criteria. And it wasn't even that close, or that there wasn't that much disparity as far as control time versus damage. Hall did all of the damage, and Minner just sat there and did nothing. So this is where DC's commentary really fails for me, is he is so obsessed over position and wrestling and dominant position time. And that's just not how you win a fight. If you are so dominant that the other person can't do anything and you have position the entire time and they do no damage to you, then yes, that is the second criteria. Okay? Aggression and position. Octagon control. Those are why we have that judging criteria, is to differentiate when the damage is equal. So if the damage is 0, you take a guy down, he can't damage you and you don't throw out any damage, but you are on top of him for 5 minutes, you win that round. That's the end of it. But we have other criteria, DC. You got to stop, man. I don't dislike DC's commentary, but he does need to stop saying that stuff. All right, Tony Kelly defeating Randy Costa via TKO in the second round. It was a really weird, energetic fight. Fine, nothing big here. Jillian Robertson taking on Priscilla Cachoeira. Cachoeira missed weight by 3 fucking pounds at flyweight, so that's a big deal. And then Cachoeira was throwing giant shots, landing heavy on Robertson, which was great, but she got taken down, kind of controlled on the ground for, I would say 3 minutes? Yep, 2 minutes and 49 seconds. 2 minutes and 49 seconds of that first round was Robertson either on top, in mount, on her back. She's just in a dominant position, throwing strikes, doing damage, throwing down elbows, doing good work, and then she goes for the rear naked. She sinks in. Actually, she sunk in the arm under the chin in transition and then took her back. Didn't even throw her hooks in. Got the choke in hard, and then Cachoeira proceeded to reach back with her thumb and press into her. I'm doing it lighter than she would, and this is still uncomfortable for me. Or not lighter than she would, lighter than she did. So she pressed into her eye like this to try and defend, to which the hand was pushed away, and then she goes right back in there. Fucking cheater. Fucking cheater. And Chris Tognoni throws her hand off but doesn't give her a penalty. That's fucking dirty, dude. Real dirty. Missing weight by 3 pounds, you already have to be humble. You better be on your P's and you better mind your P's and Q's, okay? Because you already cheated. You already have a short rope. Like, mind your P's and Q's. Be very respectful after a fight, win or lose. You're always respectful. You apologize, saying, I understand. I had these complications. You can give, not excuses, but you can give reasons for why you missed weight. I don't think that there's a real reason for missing weight ever. Okay? You agreed on the weight, make the fucking weight. You know? And she just stopped. She just decided not to make the weight. Anyway. And then in order to defend with 1 second left, she just decided, I'm fucking gouging her eyes out. That's unacceptable. It's gross. I never want to see that shit ever again. I wouldn't be mad if she got dropped from the UFC roster for doing that shit. She's not going. I don't think she's going anywhere in the division right now. I mean, she could always come back later. She tightens some things up because she does have some heavy hands. I just don't see her challenging anything in that division. Although, like I said, it is flyweight, and female flyweight is kind of whatever. All right, cool. Next weekend, I forgot to pull this up. But it's Derek Lewis versus Kyle Daukaus? Chris Daukaus. Kyle Daukaus is the lighter one. So, Derek Lewis taking on Chris Daukaus. We all know how this should go. The same way the last one should have went. Right? When Lewis took on Gane. Does Lewis land a big shot? I would say lucky, but you make your own luck. Okay? Does he land the shot or not? If he doesn't, Daukaus wins this fight. He's a better fighter. Crisp striking, very good striker, better cardio, better MMA. He's a better fighter. Lewis just hits hard. So does he hit him hard or does he not? That's the end of it. No reason to do any odds on this. It's just, does he land that shot this fight? Stephen Thompson taking on Belal Muhammad. This is interesting because you're going to find out a lot about Belal. I like him. I think he's a funny personality. I like him as a fighter. Always have. I thought he's a gritty guy. Really gets in there. Tries to improve. Makes big strides in his game when he can. Hits hard. He's just a gritty dude. And you know how I feel about Stephen Thompson. Love the dude. Wonder boy. Love him. I'll be rooting for Thompson as much as I like Belal. I'll always root for Thompson until he retires. Until he retires, I don't care. And I'm sorry if Belal, you happen to watch this. I know you also train in Chicago. I know I'm here, and I should be rooting for the hometown guy. When you fight other people, I'll root for you, I promise. It's just not against Thompson. I don't want Belal to lose. Let's put it that way. I'm not even going to predict that one. I just hope Thompson wins. Amanda Lemos versus Angela Hill. Don't know. Javier Sansao against Ricky Simon. That'll be fun. Simon doesn't have his mullet anymore. Carlos Tejeda versus Mateus Garbrandt. Darren Elkins versus Cub Swanson. Let's go. That's going to be fun. Guy can dish out punishment and guy can take punishment. Let's see if Cub Swanson can keep up the pressure. Gerald Meerschaert fighting a guy I can't pronounce his name. I'll figure it out next weekend. Justin Tafa. Harry Hunsucker. Sajara Eubanks still fighting in the UFC for some reason. Charles Jourdain against Andre Ewell. He's an awkward fighter. Hits hard. Raquel Pennington taking on Macy Chiasson. We'll see how that goes. And Jordan Levin. Yep, cool. That's enough. All right. Thank you so much for making it through this yet again. Sorry if I spent too much time bitching about that hand in the glove, but it does make a difference. I put an emphasis on fouls because we have a very few number of rules in modern MMA, and we need to follow them because if we don't, it devolves into a sport that is not the same. Okay, and the problem is when people aren't punished promptly and justly, we end up with controversy. It is what it is. We end up with controversy. And instead of having nice, clean decisions and watching a sport that we can all enjoy, there's something that mars it or takes us out of the experience. And that I've explained that before too. It really takes us away from the experience when we have bad judging, bad refereeing. So I appreciate all y'all. Please like, and if you like the video, please subscribe. I really appreciate you guys watching all these. I come out with them every single week. I talk about the UFC, and when there's no UFC, I'll find something to talk about. I will be talking about Cobra Kai either next weekend or the weekend after. We'll review the final season that has already been released in preparation for Season 4. I might talk about Cowboy Bebop. I am working through the live-action series on Netflix, and I'm debating whether or not I want to watch the anime again before I review the two. Spoiler alert, I don't hate the live-action one. Sorry. I think I've missed the train on Squid Game, but I finally did watch all that, and it was weird. So, yeah, I appreciate all y'all. We'll talk again next week. And if you have any comments, do you think that the glove grab wasn't bad? Do you think that, I'm being too critical on the judges? Do you think Herb Dean has done a good job reffing this year? You're wrong. Anyway, love y'all. Appreciate you. Have a great week.